People called the place Heaven's Arms Orphanage, but it was not heaven, not even close. Inside, children filled the rooms, some small, some tall, some with faces that had forgotten how to smile. Some had no mommy or daddy. Some were left crying at the gate. Some were taken from the street when no one was looking. They all called one woman, Madame Layo. During the day, Madame Layo tied her wrapper neatly. She smiled at visitors, her teeth showing like white stones. Sometimes she stirred a pot of rice in the yard, so the smell would travel to the street. When people came in, she would place a gentle hand on a child's head and say, "These are my children. I love them. Help me take care of them." The visitors would nod, touched by her words. Some gave money. Some brought bags of rice, tins of milk, or used clothes. Madame Layo would clap her hands softly and say, "God bless you." But the children knew the truth. The smile was only for the day, because when the sun dropped low and the shadows grew long, Madame Layo changed. Her eyes no longer looked soft. Her voice no longer sounded warm. The smile faded like smoke in the wind, and in its place came something darker. In the orphanage, the girls were not just children. Madame Layo treated them like tools. She kept the older ones close, watching their bodies grow. When she saw one was ready, she called her into the small back room. "You will be with someone tonight," she would say, her voice cold. It was never strangers. It was the boys from the same orphanage. The boys were not free either. Madame Layo chose the stronger ones and told them, "Go to her room. Do what I say. No talk, no questions." It was a command, not a choice. When the girls became pregnant, Madame Layo didn't care about shame or fear. She waited 9 months, then took the baby away the very day it was born. Rich people came quietly. She handed the baby over for money. "Rich people want babies," she told the children. "You are just the house. I give them what they want." The boys were sent to another girl next. The girls never saw their babies again. The boys never saw their children. It all started with a girl named Sandra. Sandra was 20 years old. She had been in the orphanage since she was 3, after both her parents died suddenly. She grew up behind the red gate, wearing the same kind of faded clothes, eating from the same dented plates, and watching the same pain pass from one girl to another. For years she had prayed her turn would never come. She had seen girls led into the small back room, then months later, their bellies round, their babies taken away. But one evening, Madame Layo's voice called from the corridor, "Sandra, come here." Her heart jumped. She stood at the doorway, her hands shaking. "Go to the room at the end," Madame Layo ordered. Inside, one of the older boys sat on the bed, eyes down, saying nothing. Sandra stepped back. "Mama, please, I don't want—" "Shut up," Madame Layo snapped. "You are old enough. Do what I say." That night, Sandra's fear filled the small room. It happened once. Afterwards, she stayed awake staring at the wall, waiting to feel different. But weeks passed and there was no sign of pregnancy. 3 weeks later, Madame Layo sent for her again. Same boy, same small room, same silence. Still, nothing happened. Still, no pregnancy. A month later, it happened again. This time, Sandra's body began to change. Her stomach grew slowly, like a small secret she could not hide. She was finally pregnant. From then on, Madame Layo kept her indoors. "You will not go out until the baby comes," she said. 9 months later, Sandra gave birth. Before she could even hold her child for long, Madame Layo took the baby away. The next day, Sandra saw her step into a black car with a rich-looking man. When she returned, her bag was full of new clothes, perfumes, and money. She had sold the baby. From that time, Sandra understood. It was never about love, never about family. It was business. And once Madame Leo started, she never stopped. When visitors came to the orphanage, everything changed. The children were made to wear torn clothes, the kind with holes big enough for the wind to pass through. They were told to sit quietly in a row, hands on their laps, eyes lowered like carved dolls. When the visitors arrived, sometimes pastors in long robes, sometimes white people with cameras, the children forced small smiles. Some sang softly, their voices trembling like candle flames in the wind. "These are my lovely children," Madame Leo would say with a wide smile. "We are one big happy family." The visitors would nod, touched by what they thought they saw. Some clapped for the children, some gave gifts, some left envelopes of money. But the smiles faded the moment the visitors left. Because the truth was, if any child tried to escape this place, Madame Leo's boys would find them. They would be dragged back, beaten until their cries filled the walls, and then thrown into the black room. The black room had no windows, no light. It smelled of old rot and fear. Rats ran along the corners, their sharp nails scratching the floor. There was no food, no water, only darkness pressing against the skin. Some children stayed there for 3 days, some for 5, and some never came out at all. But what led Mama Leo to all these? No one knew. But she hadn't been someone like this earlier on in her life. In fact, long ago, before the orphanage, Madame Leo was just a young girl of 15 when she got pregnant. Her belly had started to grow, round and heavy. The boy who made the promise of love had run away, leaving only his shadow in her memory. When her parents found out, their voices cut her like sharp glass. "You brought shame to this house. Get out!" her father roared. Her mother pointed to the door without looking at her face. She left that night. She slept in the corner of an empty shop, the floor cold under her thin wrapper. There was no food to fill her stomach, no hands to hold her when the nights were long, only her growing belly, heavy like a stone she could not put down. One day, the pain came like waves in a storm. It was time to give birth. By nightfall, 2 tiny cries broke the silence. Twins, a boy and a girl. She looked at their small faces, then turned her eyes away. "You ruined my life," she whispered. "Because of you, I lost everything." The next morning, she wrote 2 words on a piece of cardboard: "For sale." She placed it in front of them. A rich man came in a big car. He looked at the babies and said, "I will take them. I will pay you plenty." She did not think twice. She sold them both. The money fell heavy in her hands. She bought new clothes, ate sweet food, and for the first time in months, she felt something close to power. If I can sell 2 babies and get rich, she thought, why stop there? With that idea burning in her heart, she packed her things and left for the city. There, she used part of the money to build a place. She painted the walls pink, placed old chairs in the rooms, and put up a sign, "Heaven's Arms Orphanage." But heaven did not live there, only the shadow of her past. In that same town, there was one girl called Anita, only 12 years old, small but clever. Just like Sandar, she also ended up in the orphanage after the passing of both her parents. So, since then, she had been calling Mama Layo Momi. She had been watching, listening, keeping the pieces of truth in her heart. One night after turning 18, after Madame Layo left, in her shiny dress for the club, Anita crept close to Sunday, a boy a little older than her. Her voice was barely louder than the wind. "Let's run," she whispered. "If we stay here, we'll vanish like the others." Sunday's eyes widened. "They will catch us," he said. "You know they always do." "I have a plan." Anita replied, her lips set like a closed door. When the house was silent and the air heavy with sleep, Anita tiptoed into Madame Lyle's office. Her small hands searched drawers until they found something, a small phone hidden under papers. She pressed the buttons with care. One number caught her eyes, Auntie Funmi. Church. Anita's mind went back to the day Auntie Funmi had visited. She had smiled, given them food, and patted their heads. Anita remembered thinking, this one is kind. She dialed the number. The ring felt like it took forever. Then a soft voice came through. Hello? Anita's hands trembled. Auntie. It's me, Anita. Madame Lyo is doing bad things. We're not safe. Help us. Silence. Then Auntie Funmi spoke, her voice slow but gentle. My God, my dear child, don't worry, I'm coming, right now. Anita closed her eyes and held the phone to her ear a little longer, as if the voice could shield her from everything outside the office door. For the first time in a long time, a small seed of hope planted itself in her heart. Little did she know, the auntie she just called was nothing different from Mama Layo, if not worse. However, by the following morning, the sound of tires rolled softly into the street. A white van stopped in front of the red gate. Two women stepped down. One of them was Auntie Funmi. She opened her arms wide, her smile warm. Anita, come. You are safe now. Anita's small feet carried her forward without thinking. She glanced back once. The children stood in the shadows, their faces pressed against the window bars. Some clapped softly, their eyes shining. They believed help had finally arrived. The van door closed and the sound faded into the dark. But by the next morning, Anita's bed was empty. Her blanket lay folded neatly, her pillow untouched. Even her toothbrush was gone. Sunday's voice broke the morning silence. Where is Anita? He asked, his eyes moving from face to face. Madame Lyo was sitting by the table, peeling an orange. She ran away, she said without looking up. Her voice was flat, but her eyes, cold as river stones, told another story. Weeks passed, and Anita's name was spoken less and less, like a song people were afraid to sing. One hot afternoon, Emeka was told to clean Madame Leo's office. The air inside was still, smelling of perfume and paper. He dusted the desk, wiped the chairs, and bent down to reach the lower cupboard. The door creaked open. Inside was a thick brown file with bold letters on the cover. AF, Special Care. His fingers shook as he pulled it out. He flipped it open, and the room seemed to grow colder. Inside were photographs, children's faces, one after another. Each photo had a note beside it. Names, dates, amounts of money, and places they had been sent. At the top of the first page was Anita. Her picture looked back at him, her eyes frozen in a small, shy smile. Across the photo in red ink was a single word, retrieved. Emeka's breath caught in his throat. Now he understood. Auntie Funmi was not a savior. She was part of it. She was the one who found baby buyers, the one who taught Madame Lyo how to make it all look clean. She forged the papers. She moved the children quietly. And she was the one who took Anita away, not to safety, but deeper into the shadows. The day Anita was taken away, in the van, she sat at the very back, her small hands pressed together, her knees drawn close. The air inside was thick, smelling of fuel and fear. The driver kept glancing at her through the mirror, his lips curling into a slow smile. You should have kept quiet, he said, his voice low and heavy. Anita's eyes stayed on the floor. Her heart thumped like a drum in a festival. In the front seat, Auntie Funmi held a phone to her ear. Yes, we got her, she said. Madame Lyo said she was too sharp. We're taking her to the others. Anita's fingers tightened into fists. She didn't know where the others were, but she knew it was nowhere good. The road stretched ahead, quiet and empty. Then, grrrr! The van jerked, shuddered, and stopped. Smoke rose from the engine like a dark cloud. The driver muttered and stepped out to check under the bonnet. Anita's eyes darted around the van. Under the seat, her fingers touched something cold, the broken end of a wire hanger. She gripped it tightly, her small hands shaking. Her mind whispered one thing, now or never. The van door swung open with a sharp creak. Auntie Funmi's face appeared, her hand reaching in to grab Anita's arm. In one quick move, Anita drove the sharp end of the broken hanger into her flesh. Auntie Funmi screamed, clutching her arm. Anita didn't wait. She leapt out of the van, her feet hitting the hard ground, and ran straight into the dark bush. The night wrapped around her like a black cloth. Branches slapped her face, tearing her skin. Thorns bit into her bare feet until warm blood ran down her toes. Behind her came the voices, "Catch her! Don't let her get away!" The shouts pushed her forward, her small body darting through the trees like a frightened bird. She ran and ran, the wind burning her throat, the ground biting her feet. The voices grew smaller, then faded. Still, she didn't stop. She kept running, as if the darkness itself was chasing her. And when the first light of morning touched the sky, Anita was still moving, her body weak, but her will still burning. As the first light of day spread across the sky, Anita's legs finally gave way. She stumbled out of the thick bush into a small village, her dress torn, her face scratched, her feet raw with blood. She reached the front of an old mud hut and fell hard on the ground. An old woman stepped out carrying a basket. Her eyes widened. "Ah, my husband, come quickly," she shouted. An old man ran from behind the hut. He knelt beside Anita, his hands gentle as he lifted her. Inside, they laid her on a raffia mat. The woman fetched a calabash of water. The man poured a little into her mouth, then gave her a spoon of palm oil to swallow. Anita's lips trembled. Her voice was as thin as smoke. "Please, help me." Then her eyes closed and she lay still. Fear gripped the couple. Without waiting, they wrapped her in a cloth and hurried to the village clinic. 3 days later, Anita's eyes opened slowly. The old woman was sitting by her side. "My child, you are safe now," she said. Anita swallowed, her voice breaking. "She's selling us. The orphanage. It's not real." The old woman looked at her husband. They both nodded. They believed her. The very next morning, the villagers took Anita to the small police station in their town. 2 officers listened as she told them everything. Her words slow but clear, each one like a stone dropped into still water. The local police called the city station. By evening, a team of officers arrived in plain clothes. They didn't sound sirens. They didn't knock on doors. They went straight to the orphanage. Quietly, they spread out and surrounded the red gate so no one could run. Inside, they searched every corner. They found the black room, dark, foul, with rats scattering at the light. They found files stacked high, each one filled with names, photos, and payments. They opened locked boxes stuffed with money, papers, and strange documents. Even the hidden cameras in the children's rooms were uncovered. In her bedroom, Madame Lyo was still asleep, her long wig resting on her head, her lashes thick and false. The officers shook her awake. She sat up, blinking, then saw the uniforms. "You think you're smart?" she shouted. "Children are nothing. Do you hear me? Nothing." But no one listened. 2 officers pulled her up, handcuffed her wrists, and led her out past the red gate. For the first time, the house stood quiet, her voice gone from its walls. In the courtroom, Madame Lyo sat in the dock, her wig gone, her face bare. Tears rolled down her cheeks as she spoke. I was poor. I was rejected. I had no one, she cried, her voice shaking. The judge's eyes stayed steady on her. You were hurt, he said, but instead of choosing good, you became the very monster that hurt you. You will never touch another child again. The sound of the gavel filled the room. Life in prison, the judge declared. From that day, Madame Lyo's red gate never opened for her again. One by one, the police returned to the orphanage and took the children away. They were placed in real homes, homes with warm food, soft beds, bright toys, and kind faces that smiled without hiding a knife behind their backs. Weeks later, a car door opened outside one of those homes. Anita stepped out, her dress new, her hair neat, her skin no longer covered in bruises. The moment the children saw her, they ran across the yard, arms wide. They hugged her tightly, laughter and tears mixing in the air. Anita smiled, her voice soft but strong. I told you, we will be free. Years passed, and Anita's life took a new shape. Her foster parents loved her like their own, and under their care she grew, her mind sharp as a cutlass. She studied hard, and one day she put on the black robe of a lawyer, the same girl who once ran barefoot through the bush, now standing tall in courtrooms. But the past has a way of finding its way back. One quiet evening, her foster mother sat her down. There is something you must know, she said gently. Anita listened, her hands still. The truth came slowly, like a shadow creeping over the floor. Madame Lyo, the woman who had hurt so many, was her real mother. The rich man who had bought Anita and her twin brother years ago had died. With no one left to keep them, the two children had been sent back to the orphanage. Her voice trembled as her foster mother added, Your brother, he died just a week after you returned there. Later, Anita stood by a small grave, the wind bending the grass around her feet. She placed her palm on the cold stone and whispered, We are free now, but I will fight for other children, so no one else will suffer like us. The evening light touched her face. She turned away from the grave, her steps steady, carrying both the weight of loss and the fire of purpose. I hope you enjoyed the story. If so, please like the video, comment what you learned from the tale, share with friends and family, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more African tales just like this one. Thank you.